So today I'm going to show you how you're going to do the food tests. And so we're going to be looking at the positive and the negative controls for our chemical indicators. We are going to be using Benedict's, Sudan 3, iodine, also called Lugol's, be careful, and Burette solution. So I'm going to start with Benedict's. Benedict's is our test for sugar, and it only tests for reducing sugars, which are a specific type of sugar like glucose, but we're going to be using this to test for sugar. So to start off, I'm going to need my sugar, and I'm going to put a few drops into one of my tall test tubes, and this is going to be my positive control because I know that it has sugar in it. Into my negative control, I'm going to add some deionized water, and that I know does not have sugar in it, so that is going to be my negative control. Into both of these test tubes, I am going to put about 10 to 15 drops of my Benedict's solution. You're going to be more careful than I am. I'm just showing you how it works. And then Benedict's needs to be heated. So Benedict's is then going to go into a really hot water bath, which I have a beaker of hot water here, and I'm going to let these sit for about 3 minutes. Now, my test tubes are not labeled. You're going to want to label your test tubes. I know that this one that doesn't have any writing on it, that's my negative. And this one that has a little bit of writing on it is my positive, and I'm going to lean them in different directions. All right, while that is sitting, we're going to move on to our next test. The next test that I'm going to use is the Sudan 3. Sudan 3 is a test for fat. Oil is a really fatty fat. So I'm going to take my oil, and I'm going to put just a little bit into my test tube. And oil is really thick, so it's a little bit hard to use a pipette, so you're just going to have to be careful. And then, again, I'm going to make my negative control with my deionized water. And then I'm going to add a couple, 2 to 3 drops of my Sudan 3. And what Sudan 3 does is it actually forms it dissolves. So it dissolves in fat. It does not dissolve in water. So you know how fat and water don't mix? That's basically the property that we're using here. So in my oil, if I give this a little bit of a shake, my Sudan 3 should dissolve in my oil. And I can actually see my oil is starting to turn pink all the way through it. I'm going to do the same thing with the water. And these are going to look a little bit different now. And so what's going to happen is the liquid that the Sudan 3 is in is not going to mix with the with the oil, and it's going to make a bunch of little bubbles, and the bubbles are going to be clear and the oil is going to be tinted pink. In my water sample, my water is clear. And it might look a little bit like it's tinted pink, but there shouldn't be any bubbles in it, and that's called emulsification. So I'm going to hold these up for you. See how in this one, it's not quite clear? It's a little bit bubbly. That's the oil. This one's the water. It looks almost the same color, but not quite. All right, the next test that we're going to do is for starch. And starch is a bunch of sugar molecules stuck together. And this test uses iodine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a couple, like 5 drops to one of the wells on my well tray. And these are labeled positive and negative. So I'm going to add 5 drops to my positive control. And then to my negative control, I'm going to add 5 drops of water. And then I'm going to add 2 to 3 drops of iodine to both of these. Oops. And when you're using iodine, what you're looking for is your negative will be this sort of orangey brown color. And the positive, meaning that there is starch, is going to be this dark purple black color. The last test that we're going to do is for protein. So it's good to mix your solutions before you use your pipettes, just in case some of it has settled to the bottom. For protein, I'm going to do basically the same thing that I did with my starch. So I'm going to add 5 drops to the positive, and then 5 drops of water to the negative. And this test is burette solution. And burette solution is a pale blue color. And this is one of the hardest tests to actually use because the color does not always change very much. All right, so my test for protein using burettes. The negative is this light blue color, meaning that there's no protein. The positive is this purple color, meaning that there's a lot of protein in that sample. Okay, now that we've done that, it's time to check back in on our sugar or our glucose. So what we did is we said that this one with the writing is our positive, and this one without the writing is our negative. Notice that when you're testing for sugar, the sugar turns a bright orange color, and it's forming a precipitate, which means you can't actually see through it. The negative is this light blue color. There's no sugar in this, and you can see right through it.